We were somewhere around Glendale, on the edge of the desert, when the film began to take hold. I had 3 rolls of Kodak Gold 200, 2 rolls of Color Plus, a pack of Ultramax 400, some of Fuji's finest, 1 roll of Portra 400, and a whole galaxy of self-rolled blacks, whites, and grays. Also a K1000, a Nikon F2, and a pint-sized Nikon point-and-shoot. Not that I needed all that for the trip, but once you get locked into a series film collection, the tendency is to push it as far as you can. The only thing that really worried me was the Portra. There's nothing in the world more helpless and irresponsible and depraved than a man in the depths of a Portra binge. And I knew I'd get into that rotten stuff pretty soon. Welcome to Camaraderie, the only analog film photography channel on YouTube. Today's video is sponsored by, it's sponsored by itself. It's a sponsorception. This video is going to be long, so sit back, relax, enjoy yourself, pour yourself a cup of whatever you want. Ayahuasca tea, coffee, maybe a little coconut milk. You know, whatever, what have you. Just get, settled in, and off we go. Yeah, so this was a trip that me and my girlfriend have been planning for a while, and we're super stoked to just get out of North Carolina. Yeah, we got to RDU at like 5:30 or so. It was still dark outside, and we were super awake. Very energetic and ready to go. So obviously that's a lie, and I was already kind of losing it. That would bode well for the rest of the trip. We finally made it to Las Vegas, and we're promptly hit by how extra Las Vegas is. You got a whole casino right in, as soon as you get off the plane, in your gate. So that was like, geez. Once we got there, I was like, you know what, I need to go ahead and load up some film, because you never know when inspiration is going to strike, and it struck right then and there. Oh no! No! Oh no! Oh no! Getting distracted by all the Las Vegas around me. Took this picture while we were waiting for the shuttle to take us from the airport to the car rental. I wanted just like the shape of the shadow and the gate and everything, but the coloring of it all kind of worked out fortuitously. Just with this lady walking by with the red and the blue kind of matching with the gates and everything. So I starting off on a good, strong note. What's up?
Welcome.
Dude, nice whip. I feel like this was a long way to go just to go to Walmart. After we got the rest of our supplies, there was nothing else to do except just explore Las Vegas and just really dig in and get into the nitty gritty of what makes it such a great, fantastic city.
Viva Las Vegas.
Ew! 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 On second thought, Las Vegas is a silly place, so we booked it out of there. Had some Ultramax loaded up in my Nikon F2, but it's like, you know what, let me go ahead and get the Pentax ready as well. So I threw some Kentmere 400 in there. Real quick, let me gripe about the TSA. I know no one has ever had any problems with the TSA before, but when we went through the security checkpoint on our way back, so this didn't happen going out there, but on our way back, I followed their recommendations for like having all of my film in a little clear bag, so you can just be like, hey, I want this manually inspected, rather than risking getting your film fogged by the X-ray machine. And right before the flight back home, I did that, and then I got home and one of the caps on one of my reusable film cassettes was off. So that was pretty much a whole roll, mostly ruined. Like, you could still see some of the pictures, but it was Light Leak City. So now I'm just like, well, I don't know whether it's safer to put my film through the X-ray machine or have them manually check it, because it seems like it's just gonna get messed up either way. So that's fun. As soon as we got out of Las Vegas, we just started losing our minds at the just incredible scenery that we were driving through, and it was just like every mile, every turn in the road, it was just like, oh my god, that's amazing. All right, baby, you gotta drive. Our first destination was Zion National Park, and to get there from Las Vegas, you pretty much just get on the road. But you do cross through Arizona, and then you eventually make it to the traditional Democratic stronghold of Utah.
Welcome to Utah!
So, Utah? I couldn't help but chuckle when we drove through the town of Virgin. Now, the funny thing about planning trips is that you do your best to make sure everything is accurate, but we forgot about time zones. They're a thing, and it was a source of consternation from the get-go. So Nevada is on the Pacific time zone. It's on California time, right? Utah is in the Mountain time zone. So we thought that we were going to have an extra hour of everything, right? But yeah, we get to Zion National Park. We're thinking that's like 3:30, 3 o'clock maybe. But no, it's actually like 4:30, and they stop getting shuttles from the town that's right outside of Zion. They stop operating that shuttle that takes you into the actual park itself. They stopped doing that at 5, and we got there. We got the last bus into Zion. They would still bring people out for a few more hours, but that was the last one going in. And thankfully we got it. Otherwise, I don't know what we would have done with our first day. So we were just getting off to a really strong start. But once we were in Zion, it was, again, just incredible. Every which way you look. only had time for one trail, but it was so hot that I think that was okay, especially for running on like 2 or 3 hours of sleep that we had. So we saw a squirrel and just peaced out. After we left Zion, we drove to Red Dead Redemption and set up camp for the night. So the first night of camping was absolutely dreadful. The scenery was obviously amazing, but I was always under the impression that deserts got pretty cold at night. Not this night. No. I was sleeping on top of my sleeping bag, pretty much naked, and was still sweating and sticking to everything. It was awful. Although that night of sleep was simply terrible, once the sun rose, I got up and was just honestly ready for the day. And there's something about the light that just screamed for Portra. So I obliged and loaded up my Nikon F2. And I knew that later on in the day I would want Portra in there anyways, so I kind of had to like budget my one roll of Portra. But we were going to Lower Antelope Canyons later on that day, and having seen some of the pictures from other people there, it's like, all right, I know Portra's gonna be all right here. And yeah, no, we'll get to that. Hold your horses. Actually, hold your cows, because we saw a bunch of cows coming out of our Red Dead Redemption trip. So the plan was to do some trails in Grand Staircase Escalante on our first full day out west. But yeah, no, our route was taking us like the opposite way. We kind of skirted under Grand Staircase, and all the major trails and everything were up at the top of Grand Staircase. Instead, we found a little town called Pereire. I thought it was called Pariah, but apparently it's pronounced Pereire. And yeah, it's like an old little ghost town. So we got to Pereire, I think it was like a mining town. I don't know if it was a mining town or not, but it was just a little town like kind of tucked away in the crevasses of this part of Utah. They shot like a bunch of old westerns there after it was abandoned. And then some bozo, excuse my language, burned down the whole ghost town a few years ago. So there's not really much to see anymore. But the drive to the historic town site was again incredible. Ready to go to Horseshoe Bend, baby?
Oh yeah, baby.
All right. Since we hit the road so early and only spent like an hour and a half, maybe two, going up and down the road to Pereire, we had some time to kill before our tour at Lower Antelope, so we decided to visit Horseshoe Bend. And it was nice. Oh yeah, double fisted today. Oh yeah? How's it feel? Oh yeah. Wanna try this one out? Oh yeah. It's one of those, all of these places are like, pictures don't do them justice. Actually being there, it still feels like you're stepping onto a different planet. But I shot pictures anyways because that's what I like doing. If you haven't figured that out yet. These are the only 2 pictures I took on my DSLR the entire time. So, you remember that time zone issue that I mentioned earlier? Yeah, it was still a thing, even though we thought we had adjusted everything accordingly. So Arizona doesn't observe daylight savings time, so they were technically an hour behind Utah and Colorado, which is where we were spending most of our trip. But so they were on, like, technically they were the same time as the West Coast was, as Nevada was, and Navajo Nation, which is where we were spending most of this day, does follow daylight savings time. So they, even though we were in Arizona, it was, but all the attractions that we went to, all the places that we went, operated on, I don't even know it. I'm still confused. Basically, just check your time zones and make sure you know where you're at and what the local jurisdictions say about, especially daylight savings time. We should just get rid of daylight saving time anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and make that my platform for when I campaign for the political office that dictates that kind of thing. But anyway, we made it to Lower Antelope for our tour of Lower Antelope Canyon. I proceeded to blow my load of portrait film. After I blew through my Portrait 400, I switched over to some Kodak Ultramax. My thinking was, hey, you know, at least they're the same brand, maybe they'll have similar looks at least. That's not the case, but I still like how some of these pictures turned out. After we went up this staircase to get out of the canyon, it was pretty striking to just see how you can't even tell that it's there. You would never know that it was there unless you knew that it was there. And of course I had to take a picture of the sun-drenched Porta-Johns. From there, it was finally time to call it a day, and we made it to our lodging for the evening. Actually got a shower. It's pretty nice, except for the bed bug issue. But we got a new room, and then everything was smooth sailing for about an hour, and then the fire alarm went off. And of course, being in the desert with all these wildfires going, yeah, we were a little worried, but it ended up just being some weird tripped up wire or something. So anyways, next morning we filled up on gas, and there was actually a tiny little airport. It was really mostly just like a runway. I think it was for like adventure flights or something like that. And there's a plane taking off right then and there, and this ended up being one of my favorite shots of the entire trip. Next up was Monument Valley, and this is something that I've always wanted to go and see, and I'm so glad we did, because it's just like iconic for so many reasons. And again, it's one of those that just like you have to actually be there in order to get a sense of the scale of all of the monuments in Monument Valley. The buttes. Hey, Luke from the future here in my editing hole, and I can't believe that I missed the opportunity to say the beauty of the buttes. So I got to live my childhood fantasy dream of being in a Western by going out west and seeing Monument Valley. We were going to try and take a tour between, like a sightseeing tour, actually in the valley and in like the nitty gritty corners and everything. But it was like an hour wait, and then like the tour itself might have been up to 2 hours, and we were like, we gotta get to Mesa Verde tonight, and that's still like 3 hours away. So we didn't take a tour, but we still were able to drive through Monument Valley and have our minds blown. While Selena was figuring all of that out about the tour situation, I wandered off and just kind of explored around this very aptly named hotel, and ended up getting some of my favorite shots just around the property, and then and in the gift shop as well. We had to make it to Mesa Verde by nightfall, so we drove from Monument Valley through a little place called Mexican Hat, because there's some rocks that apparently look like a sombrero. Right after Mexican Hat, we decided to make a quick detour to the Four Corners just to see the monument, because it's something cool, you know, being 4 states at once, all that. I saw a sign that said service dogs only beyond this point, so I was like, I'm not a service dog, so I'm gonna not go in there. And luckily, I found a couple more porta johns. Decided to go ahead and set up camp before going to Mesa Verde because we knew we'd be getting back kind of close to dark, and we don't like setting up camp in the dark. It's not great. I mean, we had headlamps, but I'd rather see what I was doing. So we got to Camp Kush in the Four Corners and set up camp. As soon as we got done setting up camp, we were warmly welcomed by a little Great Pyrenees named Luna, and she was just a sweetheart.
Oh, goodness. He just walked right up. He or she, I don't know. Are you a girl? Are you a girl in the pool?
Yeah.
You got pretty eyelashes, I tell you that.
That's right.
Oh
Hey,
my god,
buddy.
a sweetheart. It's like, yeah, he likes me. Oh.
At Mesa Verde, we tried to get a ticketed tour, but they were sold out within like 5 minutes for that day. But we were still able to kind of drive through a bunch of areas and still see a lot of the hillside dwellings, pueblos. And so that it was still just so cool to see, like, how, just to imagine how they did all of the things. And they had just like a whole society that just lived in the hills. Not like the Hills Have Eyes, different kind of hill dwelling society. Towards the end of our time in Mesa Verde, we stopped by the Sun Temple, which is my favorite temple in Zelda. The next morning at Camp Kush, we were given some love by Max, who is the other Great Pyrenees on this camp farm thing. I brought along a point and shoot camera, the Nikon TeleTouch, that I was hoping to just kind of like get some footage of and maybe for a review down the road. And I thought, you know what, I'll just shoot some Fuji Superia 400 because I know Fuji's well known for their ability to handle the green tones. And I figured in Colorado that would probably come in handy. course, being in Colorado, you know we had to load up on some gas. Pretty soon into that first roll of Fuji Superia 400 on the Nikon Teletouch, I ran into some problems. It would just keep rewinding at random points.
Oh. Why? See? This is dumb. This is dumb. It's like, it's like pressed all the way in somehow, so like if you barely touch it, it starts rewinding. I just really hope I'm not like quadruple exposing these first.
Up, up.
I feel better about this, actually. Gotta go all the way to 18. This is great. This is awesome. I'm not even doing it, man.
So that was kind of a bust, but the quality from the first few pictures that I got on it, I actually really like the optics on the Nikon. I mean, I like Nikon glass anyways, but it was just kind of a bummer that it kept not working. So we made it to Durango and then went up the $1 Million Highway, which is one of my favorite roads in the entire world. And I know because I've been on a lot of roads in this world. If you're familiar with the Blue Ridge Parkway, it's like that times 40. It's another one of those things where it's like every turn you're just blown away by what you're seeing. And it's all like, it's the $1 Million Highway. Look it up and drive it, because it's a lot of fun to be the passenger and it's also a lot of fun to be the driver. Once we got to the Gunnison Valley Canyon area, we were like, okay, so we're gonna camp here, but we want to go on this one trail, this Mesa Creek Trail, and yeah, we drove the wrong way for about an hour and a half, going to a different Mesa Creek Trail than the one that we meant to go to. But I mean, at least the drive was still nice. But we finally made it to Mesa Creek Trail, and this was like our last night of camping. The next day we would be driving to Denver and just kind of chilling out in the city for a little bit. But we had one last really good hike, and it was awesome. We had our last Mountain House freeze-dried meal and packed it in for the night. The next morning, we decided we were kind of over eating like protein bars and jerky for breakfast, so we decided to actually stop into the town of Gunnison and treated ourselves to some brunch. Unfortunately, the drive to Denver from Gunnison was very smoky because of the wildfires from miles and miles and miles away. So we didn't get many like grand vistas or anything like that, but it was still a very pleasant drive into Denver. As soon as we got to Denver, we just started vibing straight away, dude. And we bebopped around Denver. There's not much to say about it. It's a city. We just hung out, went to a couple different places. But the next morning, we had some time to kill because our flight left at 3, and we had a few hours to kind of go check out some more stuff, and found this coffee shop with this brewing method that I'm sure Peter McKinnon would approve of. We also checked out a thrift store, and I thought I was about to get lucky because I saw a flash and I saw a manual for a Ricoh Shotmaster True Zoom. No sign of the camera itself though, and I looked it up, and I think I kind of got lucky because if I had gotten it, like all the reviews just say it's an awful camera. Of course, I had to get something for the dogs back home. Our trip was finally coming to an end, and we had to return our rental car and be very sad in the airport because there was way too many people, and we had spent the last week pretty much just by ourselves, and it was kind of it was a sad moment. So many people. Vacation was ending. Don't be sad don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened, or whatever cheesy thing you want to say. But
Claire Reardon.
baby, I know it's been a long week, but you still trying to get that bag? I make no apologies for that joke. There's only one reason why we didn't intentionally miss our flight back home. Well, two reasons actually. Porter and Shelby. So good to be back home. Hey, if you made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back. That's a long video. I can't wait to go somewhere else and make another one of these because it's just been a lot of fun and I learned a lot about myself. Mostly, actually, like, don't overpack. I took 6 different cameras and didn't use like half of them. I brought way too much stuff. I brought a tripod. I don't think I used that once. Sound equipment I didn't use. I don't know what I had in mind for this trip, but you know, better safe than sorry, I guess. But man, that backpack got so heavy. Got Chicago coming up next month, so that's going to be a totally different experience from this. And yeah, no, thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments if you have a clever one-liner to end this video on, because I got nothing. It's been like, how long has it been? It's been almost 2 weeks putting this video together, and between developing and processing and XYZ. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be on this lens in the next video. Until then, bye.